Another thing that was pretty surprising is that the yields were uncorrelated with profit. And this is something that we've been suspecting for quite some time. Farmers don't have a business plan. There's no business plan on most farms in the U.S.
No, they only talk about yield.
They only talk about.
I mean, the regenerative guys and girls definitely talk about margins and profits, etc., because they're comfortable with that.
Yeah.
But it always surprised me as somebody that doesn't come from farming. Like, you would never ask that question. I've probably said it a million times on this podcast, to a factory. Like, what's the maximum you can squeeze out of in terms of bicycles or in terms of phones? No, you would ask, what's the optimal in terms of costs, input, output, to see. I mean, you're not going to do 24-hour shifts if it doesn't make sense. Or you're not going to input, etc. But somehow in farms, we only ask, what's your yield? That's it.
Yeah, it's crazy. And down at the coffee shop, too. I mean, nobody's talking about.
Of course, yeah, that's the one thing we compare. Yeah. But they weren't correlated. So what's going on there?
Well, what my conclusion is, I mean, you can grow 300 bushel corn if you really want to, but it's going to take a lot of input costs. And that's not good farming, right? It's really poor farming, but you still have the best yields in the county. And that's what matters to the farmer. Again, what metrics are we assessing our success by within these different fields?
Yeah, I said something like, the regenerative fields, and I would like to touch upon that a bit later, had a 29% lower grain production, but 78% higher profits over traditional corn production systems. So that's, again, significant, a lot, etc. But at 29%, because I hear some people now saying we're actually approaching, like, we're outperforming, approaching, even if you just look at corn, etc., on some regenerative fields. Do you see that too? Is this because we looked at part of the system and not at the holistic? Like, does this include the grazing that they might do afterwards as well? How should we look at the 29 and not be scared? Okay, like it's almost 30% less. How are we going to feed the world? Which is something we hear all the time, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, right now, 67%, I think, something like this, of the arable land in North America is devoted to crops we don't eat. So if you want to feed the world, grow food. Let's pretty simple. Number two, hunger is not correlated to how much corn we're producing. If there's hunger issues around the world, it's either a distribution problem or we're producing the wrong kinds of things.
So you're saying the 29% less is not something to be frightened about or to go into some kind of like, oh.
No. And then the last thing on that is some of the top yielding farms in this study were the regenerative farms.